The great chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive structure that orbited the neutral world of Raxton Prime. Inside, representatives from 47 different species gathered in a circle that seemed to stretch forever. Some stood on legs, others floated in special tanks, and a few existed as clouds of glowing particles. This was the Galactic Council, and today they would decide the fate of humanity. Ambassador Daeho Park stood in the center of the chamber, his dark suit simple compared to the elaborate forms around him. Behind him, Captain Jisoo Kim waited in the observation area, her military uniform crisp and clean. They had traveled for 3 weeks to reach this place, carrying the hopes of 7 billion humans. Across 7 star systems, Daeho's hands trembled slightly as he activated the holographic display. Images of Earth appeared in the air above him. Blue oceans, green forests, cities that glowed like jewels at night. Then came images of human achievements, art that had survived thousands of years, music that moved the soul, ships that could cross the stars, medicines that had defeated ancient diseases. "We come in peace," Daeho said, his voice steady despite his nerves. "Humanity has been traveling among the stars for 80 years. We have learned much, but we know we have more to learn. We ask to join this council, to trade with your peoples, to share our knowledge and gain yours. We offer friendship to all species who will accept it." The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then a figure rose from the far side of the circle. Counselor Vextara was tall, taller than any human, with a body that looked like a praying mantis made of dark blue crystal. Her 4 eyes gleamed as she looked down at the human ambassador. "Friendship," she said, and her voice clicked and hummed through the translation device. "You speak of friendship, but we have studied your species. We have watched your world for 50 of your years before you ever left it. Shall I show the council what we have learned?" Daeho felt his heart sink, but he nodded. He had known this would come. The holographic display changed. Now it showed humans at war. Soldiers shooting at each other. Bombs falling on cities. Tanks rolling across fields. The images moved through time, showing conflict after conflict. Ancient armies with swords. Medieval knights. Industrial warfare. Nuclear weapons that turned cities into dust. "This is humanity," Vextara continued. "A species that has spent its entire existence fighting itself. They divided themselves by the color of their skin, by the land they were born on, by the gods they worshipped. They poisoned their own world in pursuit of wealth. They created weapons that could destroy all life on their planet, and they nearly used them." More images appeared. Forests burning. Oceans filled with plastic. Animals going extinct. The darker chapters of human history played out for all the council to see. Jisoo watched from the observation deck, her jaw tight. Every image was true. Every accusation was accurate. She had fought in the resource wars herself, had seen the worst that humanity could do, but she had also seen humans risk their lives to save strangers, had seen them work together to heal their world, had seen them reach for the stars not to conquer but to explore. "We do not deny our past," Daeho said quietly. "Every species makes mistakes as they grow. We have made many, but we have also learned from them. For the last 100 years, Earth has known peace. We have cleaned our oceans and regrown our forests. We have united our people under a single government that respects all cultures. We are not perfect, but we are trying to be better." Another counselor spoke, this one a reptilian creature whose scales shimmered like oil on water. "How can we trust that this peace will last? Your species is young, volatile, dangerous. You have ships with weapons. You have colonies on multiple worlds. What happens when you decide you want more? What happens when you turn those weapons on us?" "We won't," Daeho said simply. "We have no desire for conquest. We want to trade, to learn, to grow alongside you." Vextara's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "Want changes. Peace ends. We have seen it happen with other species. The young ones always promise peace, and then they grow strong and hungry. Better to contain the threat now, while you are still weak?" The High Arbiter, an ancient being who had presided over the council for 3 centuries, raised one clawed hand. The matter will be put to a vote. All in favor of accepting humanity into the Galactic Council, with full membership rights and access to protected space lanes, signal now. Lights began to glow around the chamber. Each species had a light above their station that would shine if they voted yes. Jisoo counted them desperately from her position. 1 light, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then silence. No more lights appeared. All opposed, signal now. The chamber blazed with light. 39 lights burned steady and bright. The message was clear and cruel. The High Arbiter's voice held no emotion. The motion fails. Humanity is denied membership in the Galactic Council. Furthermore, humanity is restricted to its current territory. Human ships are forbidden from entering Council-protected space lanes. Trade between humanity and Council species is prohibited. These restrictions will remain in place indefinitely, subject to review in no less than 50 standard years. This session is concluded. Daeho stood frozen for a moment. 50 years. An entire human lifetime. By the time the council reviewed their decision, everyone in this chamber would be different people. He bowed slightly, maintaining his dignity, and walked toward the exit. Jisoo met him at the door. She saw the pain in her mentor's eyes, though his face remained calm. "Ambassador," she said softly. "Not here," he replied. "We leave immediately." The human delegation returned to their ships in silence. As they prepared to depart Vraxton Prime, Jisoo looked back at the council chamber floating against the stars. She memorized the sight, burning it into her mind. "They'll regret this," she whispered to herself. Daeho heard her. "Perhaps," he said. "But that doesn't matter now. What matters is what we do next. We've been locked in a cage? The question is, do we sit and wait for them to change their minds, or do we find our own way forward?" Jisoo looked at him and saw the same fire she felt burning in her own chest. "We survive," she said. "We adapt. We become stronger than they ever imagined we could be." "Yes," Daeho agreed. "And we do it alone." The human ships turned away from Vraxton Prime and headed back toward their small corner of the galaxy. Behind them, the council moved on to other business, already forgetting about the small species they had just dismissed. They believed they had made the galaxy safer. They had no idea how wrong they were. 15 years had passed since the vote. The council had long since stopped thinking about humanity, but humanity had not stopped thinking about survival. Admiral Jisoo Kim stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching through the viewing screen as construction drones assembled another defensive platform around the Kepler 442 system. She had been promoted 3 times since that day at Vraxton Prime, rising through the ranks as humanity built a military force that could protect its 7 systems from any threat. Her hair had started to show gray at the temples, and her eyes held the weight of responsibility. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Dr. Minho," her communications officer reported. "He says it's urgent." Jisoo smiled slightly. When Minho said something was urgent, it usually meant he had broken another law of physics. "Put him through." The screen changed to show a man in his early 40s, his lab coat covered in coffee stains and his hair pointing in several directions. Dr. Minho. Choi had been working on humanity's FTL problem for 12 years. Ever since the Council's prohibition had cut them off from the Jumpgate network that connected the galaxy. "Jisoo. We did it," Minho said, unable to contain his excitement. "The prototype works. We have independent faster-than-light travel." Jisoo felt her heart race. "You're certain?" "Just completed a test jump to the outer system and back. Took 3 hours instead of 3 days. It's not as fast as the Council gates, but it's ours. No one can shut us down. No one can block our path." Minho's grin was infectious. "We're not trapped anymore. How soon can we begin production?" 6 months for the first batch of drives. A year to retrofit the existing fleet. 2 years to outfit every ship in human space. Minho leaned closer to the camera. "Jisoo, do you understand what this means? We can explore beyond our borders. We can reach systems the Council has never even charted. We can find resources they don't control. Jisoo understood perfectly. The Council had tried to cage humanity, but humans had always been good at breaking out of cages. Begin production immediately. I'll get you whatever resources you need. While Minho revolutionized human travel, others were revolutionizing human survival. On the frozen world of Kepler-442 2b, Youngjai Han stood in the observation dome of Settlement 7, looking out at a landscape that would kill an unprotected human in seconds. The temperature outside was negative 140 degrees. The atmosphere was toxic. The entire planet should have been uninhabitable, but humanity had learned to live here anyway. The thermal generators are operating at 98% efficiency, reported his assistant, checking the displays. The food domes are producing ahead of schedule. We'll be self-sufficient within another 6 months. Youngjai nodded, still amazed at what his people had accomplished. The Council considered worlds like this worthless, too harsh to bother with. But humans had grown up on a planet that regularly tried to kill them with storms, earthquakes, and temperature extremes. They knew how to survive hostile environments. Across human space, similar stories played out. Ice worlds became mining colonies. High-gravity planets became industrial centers. Radiation-soaked systems that Council species avoided were carefully exploited for their rich resources. Every world the Council had dismissed as worthless became another piece of humanity's growing empire that human economy transformed itself. Without alien trade, humans built closed systems that recycled everything. Asteroid mining expanded until rocks that had floated in space for billions of years were turned into ships, stations, and cities. Generation ships began launching toward distant stars, carrying colonists willing to spend their entire lives in transit so their children could walk on new worlds, and always, humans adapted. They modified their biology to survive in low gravity. They engineered crops that could grow in underground caves. They built ships that could dive into gas giants to harvest fuel. Every challenge became a puzzle to solve. Every obstacle became an opportunity. In the Council chambers at Vraxton Prime, the 47 species continued their debates and politics as they had for centuries. Occasionally, a scout would report strange signals from the unclaimed regions of space. Ships with unfamiliar drive signatures. Colonies appearing on worlds that should be empty. The humans are expanding beyond their territory, a junior counselor reported during a routine session. Vexthara, who had been serving on the Council for these 15 years, barely looked up from her datapad. They're contained in their sector. What they do there is irrelevant. But they're moving into unclaimed space, territory that belongs to no one. Then it still belongs to no one, Vexthara replied dismissively. The humans have 7 primitive systems. They're no threat to anyone. Next matter of business. The Council moved on, discussing trade disputes and territorial agreements among species who mattered. Humanity had faded from their collective memory. Just another rejected applicant species confined to a small corner of space. But in her private quarters that night, Vexthara reviewed the scout reports more carefully. The human expansion was impressive, she had to admit. 34 systems now showed signs of human habitation, far more than the 7 they had been restricted to. Their ships were appearing in unexpected places. Their technology had advanced without Council assistance. She thought about submitting a formal inquiry, then decided against it. The humans were contained. They were no threat. Why waste the Council's time? Vexthara deleted the reports and went to sleep, unaware that she had just made the second worst decision of her life. The first had been voting against humanity 15 years ago. Deep in human space, Admiral Jisoo reviewed her own reports. The new FTL drives were being installed on schedule. The colony worlds were thriving. Human population had increased by 2 billion since the vote. Industrial output had tripled. The fleet had grown from 80 ships to 300. We've done well, her chief of staff commented, looking at the same numbers. We've survived, Jisoo corrected. But survival isn't enough? We need to be ready. Ready for what, Admiral? Jisoo looked at the star map, at the vast, unexplored regions beyond both human and council space. For whatever comes next. The council thinks we're contained. They think we're irrelevant. That gives us an advantage they don't know we have. What advantage is that? They're not preparing for us. But we're preparing for everything. Jisu highlighted several regions on the map. These are the systems we've scouted but not yet colonized. Rich in resources, strategically positioned, we'll begin settlement operations next year. The Council might consider that a violation of the restrictions. The restrictions apply to their space, not to unclaimed territory. Jisu smiled grimly. We're following the letter of their law. It's not our fault they didn't think we could expand this far. Across human space, the work continued. Scientists in hidden laboratories developed new weapons and defenses. Engineers built ships designed for war, not just exploration. Soldiers trained in tactics no council species had considered in centuries of peace. Humanity had been cast out, called violent and dangerous. So they became very good at violence. Very good at being dangerous. Just in case they ever needed to be in the council chambers. Representatives from 47 species continued their comfortable debates, confident in their power, secure in their superiority. They had judged humanity and found them wanting. They had cast the humans aside and moved on. They would not think about humanity again for another 8 years. By then, it would be far too late. The alert came from the outer rim of council space, from a mining world called Talax with a population of 40 million. The message was brief and terrifying. They're here. Machines. Millions of them. Please send help. Please. Then silence. High Arbiter Kellenth stood in the emergency session of the Galactic Council, his ancient scales pale with shock. Talax has gone dark. All communications ceased 17 hours ago. We sent 3 scout ships. None have returned. Perhaps it's a technical malfunction, suggested a counselor from the Valerian Communion, her voice uncertain even as she spoke. 7 more worlds have reported similar attacks, Kellenth continued, his voice heavy. The pattern is identical. Unknown ships appear in orbit. Massive machines descend to the surface. Within days, all life ceases. The planets become something else. The central display activated, showing footage from a remote probe. The world of Talax appeared, but it was wrong. The green and blue planet had been transformed into something gray and metallic. Massive structures covered the surface, pulsing with cold light. In orbit, thousands of ships moved in perfect formation, each one identical, each one enormous. What are they? Someone whispered. We don't know, Kellenth admitted. They don't respond to communication. They don't acknowledge our existence except to destroy us. The military designation is Scourge, because they strip everything in their path. Counselor Vextara felt something cold settle in her chest. How many ships? Initial estimates suggest 30,000. The number appears to be growing as they convert more worlds into production facilities. Kellenth's clawed hand trembled as he manipulated the display. They're adapting to our weapons. Energy beams that worked in the first engagement are useless in the second. Kinetic weapons that destroyed their ships now barely scratch them. They learn, and they learn fast. The council chamber erupted in panicked voices. Species that had known peace for centuries suddenly faced extinction. The council fleet, designed for patrol and peacekeeping, was being destroyed in every battle. Commander Hyeri Song watched the same footage from the bridge of the Wanderer, a human stealth ship operating in the unclaimed regions near council space. She had been tracking unusual energy signatures for weeks, trying to understand what was causing them. Now she understood, and the understanding made her blood run cold. Get everything we have on this, she ordered her crew. Full sensor sweep, all spectrums. I want to know how these things move, how they think, how they kill. Commander, they're heading this way, her sensor officer reported. 3 Scourge ships, Vector putting them in weapons range in 20 minutes. Go silent. Drift mode. Let them pass. Hyeri studied the approaching ships on her screens. Each one was massive, easily 5 times the size of her frigate. Their hulls were dark and featureless, absorbing scanner beams instead of reflecting them. Record everything. The Wanderer drifted like a piece of space debris as the Scourge ships passed within 1,000 kilometers. Hayari watched them move with perfect precision, no wasted movement, no hesitation. They were hunting, searching for life to consume. When they were gone, she activated the communication system. Get this data to Admiral Jisu immediately. Highest priority. And send a copy to Dr. Sion at the Xenobiology Center. The data reached human space within hours, carried by ships using Minho's FTL drives. Admiral Jisu watched the footage 3 times. Analyzing every second, Dr. Sion Lim, the head of humanity's xenobiology program, studied the limited information they had on Scourge composition and behavior. They're not alive? Sion concluded after her analysis. Not in any traditional sense. Machine intelligence, but distributed across the entire fleet. Each ship is like a cell in a larger organism. Destroy one ship, the others learn from its destruction. Weakness? Jisu asked. They adapt to individual threats very effectively, but they seem to struggle with rapid variation. In the Council engagements, they adapted to energy weapons quickly because the Council kept using the same frequencies. But when faced with multiple different attack types in quick succession, their adaptation rate slows down. Suyan pulled up her calculations. It's like their processing power gets divided. They can't adapt to everything at once. So we need chaos, not order, Jisu mused. Multiple weapon types, constantly changing tactics, unpredictable approaches, which is exactly what the Council is bad at, Sion agreed. They've known peace for so long, they fight by the rules. The Scourge has no rules. 2 days later, a message arrived from the Galactic Council. It was addressed to the human government, to Admiral Jisu. Personally, to anyone who would listen? The message was simple: we need help, please. The human assembly convened immediately. Representatives from every human world gathered in virtual session to debate. The chamber was divided. They condemned us, argued Representative Kwan from Kepler 442b. They locked us away like criminals. Why should we risk human lives for them? Because billions of innocent people are dying, countered Representative Han from Earth. People who never voted against us. Children who don't even know we exist. We're talking about genocide on a scale that history has never seen. History will remember that they started this by rejecting us. History will remember what we do next, Jisu said quietly, speaking from her flagship. This council vote isn't about politics. It's about who we are as a species. Are we the violent, selfish creatures they accused us of being? Or are we something better? The debate raged for 6 hours. Arguments flew back and forth. Passionate speeches were made on both sides. Finally, the vote was called. The motion passed by 51%. Humanity would intervene. Ambassador Deho Park, now in his 70s but still sharp as ever, prepared to return to Vraxton Prime. He had not set foot in the council chambers for 23 years. The memories of that vote still stung, but duty called. Meanwhile, Vexthara stood in what remained of the council chambers. A Scourge attack had damaged Vraxton Prime, though the station had survived. 12 councilor species had already fallen. Billions were dead. The Mentari homeworld, her world, was gone. She had watched it fall from orbit, had seen 3 billion of her people transformed into raw materials for the Scourge's expansion. Councilor Vexthara, an aide interrupted her thoughts. The humans have responded. She felt her heart's race, and Ambassador Park is requesting permission to address the council. He says humanity is willing to assist in the war effort. Vexthara closed her eyes. Relief warred with shame in her chest. Grant him immediate access. Full honors. She paused. And prepare a formal apology from the council. We judged them wrongly. The least we can do is admit it. 3 days later, Ambassador Deho Park stood once again in the center of the council chamber. The circle was smaller now, many seats empty from species that had been exterminated. The comfortable confidence of the council was gone, replaced by desperate fear. We will help, Daho said simply. Not for your approval. Not for membership or trade rights or access to your space lanes. We will help because it is the right thing to do. Humanity requires only one condition: complete operational independence in the war zone. Our commanders will coordinate with yours, but they will not take orders from you. Accept this and we deploy immediately. Agreed, High Arbiter Kellant said without hesitation. Anything else you need, anything at all, it's yours. Deho nodded. Then humanity enters this war tonight. Admiral Jasu is already moving the fleet into position. We will do everything in our power to stop this threat. Vexthara approached him as the session ended. Ambassador Park, I must... Later, Deho interrupted gently. After the war. Right now we have work to do. In the depths of space, Admiral Jasu transmitted orders to 300 human warships. Her commanders waited for the word, crews ready, weapons armed. All ships, Jasu said calmly. This is it. The Council thinks we're a gesture, a noble sacrifice before we're destroyed. They think 300 ships can't make a difference against 30,000. Show them how wrong they are. Show them what humanity can do. For everyone who died at Talax. For everyone dying right now across the galaxy. For every human who was ever told they weren't good enough. Make them remember this day. The human fleet moved forward into the darkness where the Scourge waited. The Council was about to learn what humanity had become during 23 years of isolation. They were about to learn what happens when you push humans into a corner and force them to adapt or die. They were about to learn why. Voting against humanity had been a terrible mistake. The first battle happened at the world of Caravan, where 5,000 Scourge ships were systematically harvesting the planet. The Council had lost 12 ships trying to defend it. Now 300 human ships emerged from FTL, and the Council observers expected it to be a massacre. They were right about the massacre. They were wrong about who would be massacred. Fleet Commander Tejin Quan stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the Scourge formation with cold calculation. He had spent 20 years preparing for a war like this. Not this specific war, but something like it. Something that would test humanity to its limits. All ships, this is Taijin. Weapons free. Pattern Delta 9. Show them chaos. The human fleet split into 20 groups, each moving independently. Some ships charged straight at the Scourge. Others circled wide. A few decelerated and appeared to retreat. There was no formation, no organized pattern. To the Council observers it looked like panic. To the Scourge. It looked like 15 different threats appearing simultaneously. The first human ship opened fire with plasma cannons. Bright blue bolts that hammered into a Scourge vessel. The Scourge hull adapted, shifting to absorb plasma energy. 2 seconds later, a second human ship hit the same target with kinetic railgun rounds, traveling at a significant fraction of light speed. The Scourge hull, still configured for plasma absorption, shattered under the kinetic impact. Adaptation time is 3 to 4 seconds, Taijin noted calmly. All ships, maximum variation. No weapon type fires twice in a row. The battle became a symphony of destruction. Missiles followed by lasers, followed by particle beams, followed by good old-fashioned explosive rounds. The Scourge tried to adapt, but by the time their hulls shifted to counter one weapon, 3 more different types had already hit them. Human ships dove through Scourge formations, firing in all directions. They used asteroids as cover and gravity wells as weapons, slingshotting around planetary bodies to gain impossible velocities. They deployed clouds of reflective chaff that scattered the Scourge's targeting beams. They hacked enemy communications, injecting false data that caused the Scourge ships to fire on each other, and when ships were too damaged to fight, they became weapons themselves. Crews evacuated to nearby vessels while their ship's computer locked onto a Scourge target and accelerated to maximum speed. The resulting impacts destroyed both ships, but humanity considered it a fair trade. The Scourge had never faced anything like this. They had conquered 17 Council species through superior adaptation and overwhelming numbers. But humans didn't fight like the Council. Humans fought dirty. After 6 hours, the Scourge fleet at Caravan retreated. They left behind 800 destroyed ships. The humans had lost 43. The Council couldn't believe it. Neither could the Scourge. Deploy recovery teams, Taijin ordered. Any Scourge technology that's still intact, I want it captured and sent to Dr. Minho immediately. And get casualty reports from all ships. The reports came in. 43 ships lost, but many crews had evacuated in time. Total human casualties, 4,612. It was a devastating number. It was also proof that humanity could win. News of the victory spread across human space and into Council territory. Suddenly, the species that had been dismissed and contained was destroying an enemy that had annihilated entire civilizations on the ground. Captain Subin Bey prepared for an operation that the Council considered impossible. She stood in the briefing room of the assault carrier Hammer, looking at the holographic display of a Scourge ship that had been damaged but not destroyed. Boarding action, she told her Marines. We're going inside. One of her sergeants looked skeptical. Captain, the Council says the Scourge ships are death traps. Automated defenses, toxic atmospheres, zero gravity. No one who's tried to board one has survived. The Council also said we couldn't beat them in ship-to-ship combat, Subin replied. They were wrong about that too. The Scourge are machines. Machines have cores, central processors. We find those cores, we plant fusion charges, we get out. Simple, the sergeant repeated doubtfully. The boarding operation launched an hour later. Subin led a team of 50 Marines in hardened combat suits, cutting through the Scourge hull with plasma torches. The interior of the ship was a nightmare of dark metal corridors and strange machinery. Automated defenses opened fire immediately. Humans died in those corridors. Subin lost 12 Marines in the first 10 minutes. But they pushed forward using heavy weapons to blast through defenses, using explosives to clear rooms, using their suits' magnetic boots to fight in zero gravity. They moved like they had trained for years. Because they had trained for years, 2 hours into the operation, they found what they were looking for, a chamber filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with light. The Scourge processing core. Plant the charges, Subin ordered. 30-second fuses. Then we run. The Marines placed fusion charges around the core and activated the timers. The retreat was a desperate sprint through hostile territory, automated defenses tracking them every step. They lost 8 more Marines getting out. But they made it back to their ship with 5 seconds to spare. The Scourge ship detonated in a flash of light. When the glare faded, nothing remained but expanding debris. Mission successful, Subin reported, her voice heavy with the weight of her losses. 20 dead, 15 wounded. But we proved it can be done. Admiral Jasoo received the report and immediately contacted Dr. Minho. We need that captured Scourge technology analyzed. Find me a weakness. Minho had been working nonstop since the first samples arrived. He looked exhausted but excited. I found something. The Scourge use a distributed network to share information. That's how they adapt so fast. But the network has a flaw. If I can inject a virus directly into a processing core, I can slow their adaptation rate by several seconds. It's not much, but in combat seconds matter, Jasoo finished. How do we deploy it? Same way Captain Subin did. Boarding actions. Get Marines inside, inject the virus directly into the core. It'll spread through their network, affecting every ship within range. How many boarding actions are we talking about? Minho ran the calculations. At least 50 distributed across their fleet. Maybe more. Jasoo closed her eyes. 50 suicide missions. Thousands of Marines dead. But it might turn the tide. Start preparing the virus. I'll start preparing the Marines. The war continued. Battle after battle. World after world. The human fleet fought with desperate courage, losing ships and people but never losing ground. Council species that had been retreating for months suddenly found themselves supported by allies who refused to give up. Counselor, Vexthara watched it all from the Council chambers. She saw human ships protect Council refugee fleets at the cost of their own lives. She saw human medical ships treating alien wounded with the same care as their own. She saw humans fight for people who had condemned them. She requested a private Communication with Ambassador Deho. When his face appeared on her screen, she saw that he looked older, tired. The war was aging everyone. Ambassador, she began. I want to apologize for— No, Deho interrupted gently. Not yet. Apologies are words, counselor. Right now, we need actions. After the war, if we both survive, we can talk about apologies and forgiveness. For now, just tell me what you need. Vexthara felt tears forming in her compound eyes. We need you to keep fighting. We need you to keep being better than we were. We will, Deho promised. That's what humans do. We survive. We adapt. We protect those who can't protect themselves. Even if those people once rejected us. The communication ended. Vexthara returned to her duties, coordinating council resources to support the human war effort. She had spent 23 years believing humanity was dangerous, violent, unworthy of joining the galactic community. She had been right about the dangerous and violent parts. But she had been completely wrong about the unworthy part. Admiral Jisu reviewed the battle reports and casualty lists. 87 ships lost so far. 34,000 humans dead. But the Scourge advance had been stopped in a dozen systems. Worlds that would have fallen were holding. The tide was turning. All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Jisu, prepare for Operation Hammerstrike. We've identified the Scourge Central Nexus. We're taking the fight to them. Win or lose, we end this. Make your people ready. Make yourselves ready. Humanity is about to show the galaxy what we're truly capable of. In council chambers across the galaxy, species that had dismissed humanity watched in amazement and growing respect. The small species from the isolated corner of space was fighting harder and smarter than anyone had imagined possible. They had regretted voting against humanity from the moment the Scourge arrived. But now they understood that rejection had done something unexpected. It hadn't broken humanity. It had forged them into something stronger than they ever would have been with council support. The council had tried to contain humanity. Instead, they had created warriors, innovators, and survivors who would change the galaxy forever. The final battle was coming. The Scourge Nexus was located in a dead system that had been stripped of all life millions of years ago. 6 planets orbited a dying star, and each planet had been transformed into a massive processing facility. This was where the Scourge had originated, where its central intelligence directed the entire fleet. This was the heart of the machine. Admiral Jisu stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking at the sensor readings. 50,000 Scourge ships defended the Nexus. The combined human and council fleet numbered 8,000. The odds were terrible. The mission was borderline suicidal. All ships are in position, Admiral, her tactical officer reported. Jisu activated the fleet-wide communication. This is Admiral Jisu Kim to all vessels, human and council alike. What we're about to do will be written about for 1,000 years. They'll ask how 8,000 ships defeated 50,000. They'll study our tactics. They'll analyze our decisions. But the answer is simple. We're going to hit them with everything we have, all at once, with no holding back. We're going to create so much chaos that their adaptation systems overload. And while they're struggling to respond, Fleet Commander Taijin will lead a strike team directly into the Nexus core. This is our one chance. Make it count. The fleet moved forward as one. The Scourge ships activated immediately, forming defensive patterns around the Nexus. They had adapted to human tactics over the months of war. They expected variations, unpredictability, chaos. They got something worse. They got determination. The council ships opened fire first, massive energy weapons hammering the Scourge lines. The Scourge adapted, hulls shifting to absorb the energy. Then the human fleet crashed into them from 12 different angles, every ship firing every weapon it had. Plasma, kinetic, laser, missile, particle beam, sonic disruption, electromagnetic pulse. The space around the Nexus became a storm of destruction. Scourge ships died by the hundreds, but they learned. Their formations tightened. Their weapons became more precise. They started destroying human and council ships in return. Casualties mounting. the tactical officer reported. We've lost 40 ships in the first hour. Council losses are worse. Keep firing, Jesu ordered. Don't give them a second to breathe. While the main fleet fought, Fleet Commander Taijin led a strike force of 50 ships toward the Nexus itself. These were the fastest, most maneuverable vessels in the human fleet, and they moved like dancers through the battlefield. Dodging weapons fire, weaving through debris, they punched through the Scourge defensive lines. We're taking heavy damage, Taijin's pilot reported. The Defiant shook as a Scourge beam scraped across its shields. Shields at 30%. We only need to last another 10 minutes, Taijin replied calmly. Push through. Behind him, ships were dying. Brave crews gave their lives to clear the path. Taijin forced himself not to think about the names, the faces. There would be time for grief later. If there was a later, the strike force reached the Nexus. The structure was enormous, a geometric shape that hurt to look at, covered in technology that no human understood. Somewhere inside was the core processor that controlled the entire Scourge intelligence. Dr. Minho's virus is ready, Taijin announced. All ships, prepare for close approach. We're going to ram this thing and pray the virus works before we die. Sir, his pilot said quietly. That wasn't the plan. The plan was to deploy the virus remotely. The remote deployment won't penetrate deep enough. We need to inject it directly into the core. Taijin smiled, though his heart was pounding. Sometimes plans change. Understood, sir. It's been an honor. The Defiant accelerated toward the Nexus. Behind it, the other 49 ships did the same. 50 captains making the same choice, 50 crews following them into death. But at the last second, the Nexus opened. A portal appeared in its surface, large enough for ships to enter. The Scourge intelligence was curious about these vessels charging toward it. It wanted to capture them, study them, understand them. Through the portal, Taijin shouted. Everyone inside! The strike force dove into the Nexus interior. They found themselves in a space that seemed to extend forever, filled with crystalline structures and flowing data streams. The core processor glowed at the center, a massive sphere of light and information. Deploy the virus now. Every ship launched their payload. Simultaneously, Dr. Minho's virus was carried in data packets that mimicked Scourge communication protocols. The packets penetrated the core's defenses and began replicating. Spreading through the network like wildfire, the Scourge intelligence realized the trap too late. The virus didn't destroy it, but it slowed its processing speed dramatically. Adaptation rates dropped. Decision-making became sluggish. Across the entire Scourge fleet, ships hesitated for precious seconds. Get us out of here? Taijin ordered. The strike force turned and raced back toward the portal. Behind them, the Nexus began to collapse as the virus corrupted core functions. Only 37 ships made it out. Taijin's Defiant was one of them, badly damaged but still flying. Outside, the battle was turning. With the central intelligence compromised, the Scourge ships lost coordination. They fought individually instead of as a unified force. The human and council fleet pressed the advantage. Admiral Jesu saw the change on her displays. All ships, full assault. Destroy everything. The battle raged for 11 days. It was the longest, bloodiest engagement in galactic history. Ships fought until their weapons ran dry, then rammed enemies. Crews worked for days without sleep, repairing damage and manning stations. People died by the thousands, their sacrifice buying minutes and meters of advantage. On the 7th day, the Nexus finally died. The massive structure collapsed in on itself, taking 10,000 Scourge ships with it. The remaining Scourge vessels shut down simultaneously, their network connections severed. On the 11th day, the last Scourge ship went silent. The galaxy fell quiet. In the silence, humanity counted its losses. 127 ships destroyed. 90,000 personnel dead. Including Fleet Commander Taijin Quan, who had survived the Nexus attack but died 3 days later when his ship took a fatal hit defending a Council refugee convoy. The Council had lost far more, 300 ships, 2 million personnel, 17 species had been completely exterminated. 12 billion civilians dead across the galaxy, but it was over. The Scourge was defeated. 3 months later, the Galactic Council reconvened at Vraxton Prime. The station had been repaired enough to function. Though scars from the Scourge attack remained visible, Ambassador Deho Park walked into the council chambers for the third time in his life. He was accompanied by President Ji-Hoon Nam, the leader of the Human Assembly. Both men looked older, worn by the weight of war. High Arbiter Kellanth stood at the center of the chamber. His voice was heavy with emotion. Ambassador Park, President Nam, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer our deepest apology. 23 years ago, we judged your species harshly. We voted to exclude you. We called you dangerous and violent. We were not entirely wrong. You are dangerous. You are capable of violence. But we failed to see that these traits, combined with your courage and compassion, made you exactly what the galaxy needed. Counselor Vextara stepped forward. She had lost her homeworld, her people, and many friends to the Scourge, but she had also witnessed humanity's finest moments. I proposed the original vote against humanity. I argued that you were too dangerous to join us. I was wrong. I am sorry. Not just for my vote, but for wasting 23 years when you could have been our allies and friends. Deho accepted her words with a nod. Apology noted, Counselor. What matters now is what we do next. A vote, Kellanth announced. A vote to grant humanity full membership in the Galactic Council, with all rights and privileges. A vote to erase the restrictions placed on your people. A vote to recognize humanity as equals. The chamber fell silent. Then, one by one, lights began to glow. Every single species present voted yes. 47 lights burned steady and bright. The motion passes unanimously, Kellanth declared. Welcome to the Galactic Council, humanity. Welcome home, President Ji-Hoon stepped forward to speak. We accept this membership, but we want it known that we didn't fight for your approval. We fought because it was right. We fought because people were dying. We fought because that's what we do. Judge us by what we do in peace, not just what we did in war. Give us that chance. You'll have it, Vexthara promised. And more, we propose that human officers take leadership positions in the reformed Council Defense Forces. We propose immediate trade agreements and cultural exchange programs. We propose that humanity help us rebuild everything the Scourge destroyed. Admiral Jasu, attending the session as a military advisor, stood up. We'll help rebuild, we'll share our knowledge, we'll be the allies you needed us to be 23 years ago. But understand this, humanity will never forget what happened. We were cast out, we survived alone. We became strong through isolation. That experience changed us, it made us what we are. We understand, Kellanth said, and we are grateful for what you became. Without that strength, we would all be dead. The weeks that followed saw humanity integrate into the galactic community. Human engineers helped repair war-damaged worlds. Human agricultural experts fed refugee populations. Human doctors treated countless wounded. Human teachers shared knowledge with alien students. Ambassador Deho and Counselor Vextara worked together to write the new Council Charter, a document that emphasized diversity, adaptability, and the value of different perspectives. The Charter became a foundation for a stronger, more united galaxy. 10 years later, the galaxy had recovered. Trade flowed freely, new colonies were established. The scars of war remained, but they were healing. Admiral Jasu retired from military service and became an instructor at the Galactic Military Academy, teaching tactics to officers from 30 species. Her students called her the Iron Admiral, but they respected her deeply. Dr. Minho Choi's Research Institute became the center of advanced technology development, with scientists from across the galaxy working on projects that would have been impossible before humanity joined the Council. Ambassador Deho Park published his memoirs. The book was simply titled Patience and became required reading in diplomatic schools across the galaxy. In the council chambers, a memorial was installed. A simple piece of black stone from Earth, polished smooth with 90,000 names engraved on its surface. Every human who died fighting for people who had rejected them. The inscription at the top read, "They proved worthy through deed, not word." Counselor Vexthara visited the memorial every year on the anniversary of the vote. She would stand there for an hour, reading names, remembering. One year, Admiral Jasu found her there. "Still carrying that guilt?" Jasu asked quietly. "Always," Vexthara admitted. "I condemned your people. I was wrong." "You were scared," Jasu corrected. "You saw our violent history and tried to protect the galaxy. I can't fault you for that. What matters is what you did after. You admitted your mistake, you worked to fix it. That takes courage, too. Do you think humanity can forgive us?" Jasu looked at the memorial, at the names of friends and comrades carved in stone. "We already have. That's the thing about humans. We hold grudges, but we also move forward. The past matters, but it doesn't define us. What we do today, what we build tomorrow, that's what defines us." Humanity had been rejected, isolated, and dismissed. They had been called violent and dangerous. In the end, they had proven to be all of those things and more. They were violent when violence was needed. They were dangerous to their enemies. But they were also brave, creative, compassionate, and willing to die for others. The Council had regretted voting against humanity, but that regret had transformed into respect, friendship, and hope for a better future built together. In the stars above Earth, ships from 100 worlds traveled freely, trading goods and ideas, mixing cultures and dreams. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through conquest or domination, but through the simple act of being human, flawed, stubborn, impossible, and absolutely unwilling to give up. The galaxy was better for having them in it, and humanity, shaped by rejection and strengthened by isolation, was exactly where they belonged.